Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to Wholesale Hotties, a place where ladies in real estate are talking about real estate. I'm your host and MC, Sharon Lee A. Smith, again with my co-host, Donda Mullinex. Hey, Donda, how are you? And Monique may be joining us a little later. She's a little under the weather, so she'll be in and out. And we brought back our favorite other co-host, Jennifer Stewart. Hey, Jennifer, how are you? I'm glad you're here. Oh my goodness, you're mute. I can't hear you.
We're not.
Try again.
She might have to go off and come back in.
Okay. Well, Jennifer, see if you can fix that. We're going to go ahead and get started. Come on back as soon as you can, because I really would love to have you in this discussion. I asked Jennifer because she's like got this crazy insight that I just love, right? Because sometimes I'll see something, but she just puts it in a different light, and it's great. I love having her on our discussions. Yeah. So we want to kind of do like a market update of what we're seeing in our world. Jennifer, can I hear you?
Yay!
Oh, yay!
Here, hey, Donda, great idea. Go out and come back in.
There you go.
We're learning the hard way, but we're figuring it out.
That's right. Eventually, we'll get this thing down pat.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to kind of just talk about what's going on in the market right now. We're seeing different changes, different, trends happening. I know last week the Fed announced a cut in their rates, but that actually the mortgage rates ended up going up, not down. And we know that's because the federal rates more control, the shorter term things, whereas it's the bond rate that controls mortgage rates, right? And so mortgage rates still went up, not substantially, right? But it was average 6.4 and it went up to 6.44, I think it was. So not super substantial, but still that's enough for the common person, for lack of a better word, to be like, oh my gosh, mortgage rates are rising, and have more of a worry, right? And so then we start to see that pan out in buyers being more cautious, and then time on market lengthening more. So we're obviously not going to see that just yet because this is just happening now, but we might see that in the coming days. So I don't know, ladies, what are you guys seeing in your markets? What's going on in your worlds?
Well, here in Phoenix area, I noticed it's kind of slowing down, but I get wholesalers and stuff that send me things, and I'm just like, God, I think your numbers are high. I just, we held on to a couple during this last year that we held them longer than we wanted to, of course.
Yeah.
Got them sold. One we sold creatively, another one we sold, but it's definitely slowed down. It's not like that buy it and put it on the market and stuff's going like crazy. So we've kind of stepped back from fix and flips. We're going to focus more on holding properties where they make sense. So that's our plan, and that's what we're doing right now. I don't know about Jennifer. What do you see in your area?
In my particular area where I live, I'm seeing even affordable housing sit, and I'm talking sub 250. I'm an hour outside of Dallas, which isn't saying anything because Dallas is now one big megalopolis from about 30 minutes south of Dallas all the way up to Oklahoma. So I am still in a high air pollution, high traffic area, even an hour outside of Dallas. Yeah. And so we get a lot of working class folks here. When I moved here, I was very much in a working class wage. And since I was abused and beaten by the last recession, I didn't care how much money I made. I was not going to let lifestyle creep bring me into a different neighborhood as long as my neighborhood stayed crime-free. So I remained in a lower middle-class neighborhood by choice, consciously. And it allows me to travel freely, as you guys know, et cetera, because I don't have some big mortgage hanging over my head. Right. And I'm seeing properties just sit on the market at $180K, which Dallas is a very rich area, meaning it's huge economically. There's not, we typically in recessions, Dallas does well in terms of unemployment, et cetera. And so you don't tend to see as much slowdown here as you do in some other places. Like you always seem to see it in Phoenix and and Vegas, Austin, and Florida are the markets where I've seen it now in 2 different recessions.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of clients from coast to coast who are wholesalers, flippers, buy and hold investors. And what I'm seeing is my flippers are coming to me in tears, literally, even some of the men who are like, Jen, I've maxed out my credit card. I can't market with you anymore. I was like, I didn't realize you were putting my marketing on your credit card. I'm so sorry to hear that. He's like, I have got to have some of my flips closed. And some of the others like, Jen, I've got to have these flips closed before I can keep marketing with you. Cash is just that tight. And just for perspective, marketing with me ranges anywhere from $500 to $5,000 a month, depending on how many deals you want to do, right? Because we have our KPIs pretty locked in. Most of them are at about the 2,000, $2,500 level rate, and they're like, we can't.
Which isn't crazy for a month of marketing, not at all.
Not if it turns into two to three deals, depending on how long you've been doing it for and in what market, right? I mean, the cash return is pretty darn decent. But my clients who are flipping, they are almost all on pause. Yep. So you can't see it on camera, but I have like 50% gray hair in my roots from how stressful the market has been. Because of stress. Like my hairdresser's like, I can tell how stressed you are by how many, because my gray hairs actually vary based on my stress levels, which is kind of wild. This epigenetic factor in our stress, right?
Yeah.
And my wholesale clients are great. Yeah. Or losing hair. Now after COVID, anytime I get COVID, I tend to lose a lot of hair. And thankfully I think we're past that. But I just got over COVID a month ago, and then 2 years ago I lost 50% of my hair. So it's crazy how it affects different people different ways.
Yeah.
But it comes back. That's the good news. It didn't stay on.
Right.
So my wholesalers, they're all doing well.
Yep.
My wholesalers, I won't say they're exactly all killing it, but the ones who've been doing it for a long time are killing it, and they're killing it for this reason. Sharon, you can probably speak to this better than me. If you lock it up at 40 to 50% ARV and sell it at 60, you're not even going to have to market the product. Like you're going to have 5 to 10 of your favorite buyers, and you're just going to make one phone call and go, hey, I've got another deal for you. But like you're experiencing, Donda, and what I experience here in Dallas, I'm on wholesaler lists. I'm like, oh yeah, we've got a good deal. It's at 70% ARV, or last year, God forbid, 80% ARV. And they told me, they're like, oh, well, you're an amateur. And, and I think you and I talked about this, Sharon, you're an amateur. And you just don't know what you're doing with your numbers. I'm like, no, you can call it volume flipping all you want. It's called being a retard is what it is. It's called being bankrupt next year is what it is. And sure enough, all of those quote unquote volume flippers are gone now, right? So the wholesalers deals are just sitting that I see in my inbox. They keep, price reduced. Lock it up 40 to 50, move it at 60 ARV, and if you're not doing that, then flippers can't afford the risk right now. And so that's what I've tried to teach all of my wholesale marketing clients that just have deals sitting. What percentage of ARV did you lock it up?
Yeah.
Like, well, the sellers don't want to budge on price. I'm like, well, then you have to let time do its job.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. And to be honest with you, that is a wholesaler problem, not a seller problem, right? This is a buyer's market right now.
It is.
If you are not making obscenely offensive offers to your sellers and then have the ability to just walk, right? This is my offer, and that's what it is. I'm going, the other way if you don't want to say yes, right? That's the power in being able to do to be able to survive in this climate. I can't
right?
Because if you have the ability to, drop your number, this is what it is, and hold fast, hold firm, and not be shaken by the sob stories or the, well, that's not good enough, or whatever you're getting from the sellers, and understand that there is so much inventory out there. This guy might not take that offer, but that guy or that guy or that guy will. And you're absolutely right, Jennifer. This first guy will feel the pinch of time in due order, right?
Time is my best negotiator.
Exactly.
And sadly, whenever you're an acquisitions manager, your boss does not give you the time. That's what's great about being your own operator is you can have the time. But if you don't have the time because you're in a cash crunch or because you're an acquisitions manager and they're judging you on your scorecard of how many deals you get under contract, that's another reason why these volume wholesalers have these stupid prices is because their acquisition managers are under the gun to get anything that they can. I was an AM and I had that pressure.
That's not right. Like that's not effective because then the deal doesn't sell. And now you've done a disservice because now this seller has it in his head, oh, well, somebody offered me that. Somebody else is going to too. So then they're stuck on this number that isn't a valid number at all.
So that's how that happens. But yeah, time is my best negotiator. And I used to get so much crap for that. Oh, well, you're not that good of a negotiator. Okay, well, then let's see you do it. Like, seriously, let's see you go in there and lock it up because it sounds like you're just browbeating us without doing it yourself. But if you do it, then I will concede that I truly need to up my negotiation skills.
Right.
And no one ever called me out on that. I mean, there are a lot of leads where you just have to really let time and the market do its job and you have to follow up.
Right. And I think we're also seeing, I don't know about you, Jennifer or Donda, but Donda actually spoke to this, right? We're seeing these flippers where their flips are just sitting on market and some have the financial capability to pivot that into a rental.
Right.
But others are so far leveraged, it's beyond, they have to sell it. And like you said, the guys are coming in tears or whatever. Like it has to be sold because they've got lenders knocking on their door.
The juice is running.
Exactly. And at this point, they've over leveraged where, refining into a DSCR just doesn't work at all.
Right.
You know, and so there was a report, the National Low Income Housing Coalition said nationwide that a modest 2-bedroom rental is renting for approximately $33.63 per hour, right? If like translating a rental into dollars per hour. So like even people who are renting, if they're not making this much money, they can't afford the rentals. And so then even if the flippers are pivoting to rentals, they can't find qualified renters,
tenants that can help them pay the debt service.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So then
now we've done our last one. We just got tied up in Washington State. We did a lease option with a guy, and we put out there we need $10,000 minimum down, and these were the payments and everything, and they're like, we had 2 people that actually reached out. They wanted to buy their first home and they've been saving, but they didn't have a huge down, but yet we made it affordable for them to get in. And then, so we have a game plan with them. We were just talking today.
That's actually really smart, Donda. You could get higher rent by doing a lease to own. So thank you for reminding me that is a tool that people can use to increase their rents above market.
Yeah. Absolutely. And that does help. And just make sure that they're like, hey, we're going to give you 3 years to do this. And do you got a lender? And if not, let me give you a couple names you can call and start figuring out what you have to do to be ready. When you are ready, you're like, okay, we did our ducks or got our ducks in a row. We did everything she said or he said to do. And now we can purchase our home. And hopefully by then the rates will be less for them.
Right.
But like this one we got was a sub 2 was a 6.75% interest rate. So
congratulations.
But it wasn't a low interest rate, but we were able to still make this deal work, which fortunately it worked great for the people in the situation that we're going to go to foreclosure if we didn't. And they walked away 0 money. So we were able to help them, and they just were like, we just want it gone, and then help a family get in there. So it was a really good feeling. And this family of 4 was in a little 2-bedroom apartment, and what the rents were, they're able to make this payment. It's not much more. So now they have a place that hopefully in a couple, 2-3 years, they'll be able to pull it through and take it and have their first home. So,
that was well done.
Yeah.
And then you get ones with the low interest rate, like our other one here. And that one brings us in like $830 a month. So, because
that's great.
Right. You got a 3.0% interest rate. It's with the rental market. And like you said, you get to charge a little bit more. So it does really well. So that's kind of more where we're focusing on right now. Just
Leon Johnson told me to always keep the two contracts separate. So you have the rental agreement and then you have the lease to own agreement separate. That way, if it ever goes to court, they can't claim equitable interest or anything related to title on your property. And if anyone would know, it's Leon Johnson. So I'm sure you probably already do that, Donda, and I've never done it personally. So my knowledge is just textbook classroom, but I wanted to share that in case that helped anybody.
Yeah, no, that's great to share that because I actually hadn't heard that. And we have a TC that we use and they do all of our stuff and make sure each state we're doing what we're doing legally and stuff. And sometimes we have to do a lease option and we can't do a sub-2 deal because of technicalities in a state or something, you know. But then we have the option to sublease it out. So, and then the one that we couldn't sell because we couldn't get it completed and we had a whole bunch of issues with it. That one we sold to another GC on a mechanization agreement. We became the people where they stepped in and he's going to keep it as a rental for his team of guys. It's got 2 properties there. So that worked out well for us.
Yeah, so that's like the thing, right? We want to buy it with documents that will give us equitable interest. But we don't want to resell it with documents that give them equitable interest.
Yeah, because I mean, if they don't pay, then guess what? You're stuck in court, right?
Right. You want a simple eviction, not a ownership dispute.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a really good tip. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
So what are we seeing, ladies? Are you following up much of the political stuff, the legislation relating to real estate? So like recently, the Road to Housing Act of 2025, also framed under the 2025 Federal Housing Bill, includes measures directly relevant to affordable housing, including raising the cap on bank public welfare investments. So that to me says like a bank can fund or invest in public housing projects to earn interest on their money. So like a REIT or whatever, not just commercial buildings or that type of thing, but public housing too. What do you think about that?
Didn't you hear? I know you know Jeff Watson. He told me this week over the phone that they're gutting Section 8 such that folks can no longer sit multi-generationally on those programs. Because I told him, I was like, okay, so it sounds like with the economy where it is, and Anna Kelly made a brilliant post, but this was before she'd made that post. I said, it sounds like everyone I know that thinks the economy is doing well is on the government teat in some way. And I mean that respectfully. I'm talking about people who have different jobs.
Oh, 1,000%, yes.
And they're heavily invested in the stock market. So if your main job makes you $150K a year working for the government, and I know a few people in that category, and you're heavily invested in the stock market, you maybe notice that grocery prices are a little bit more expensive. And that's if you're buying it. But if your wife is buying those groceries with her income, then you may not even notice that the economy is even doing anything. And we're out here in real estate kind of drowning a little bit, you know? And so I told Jeff, I was like, why don't we just all get on the government teat in some way? Why don't we just all, get a bunch of rentals and Section 8 them out? And he's like, well, Jen, I can tell you, I'm not doing anything on Section 8 because they're gutting that program. And so just a heads up, I don't know what that means in details, but I would definitely look into it if your plan for cash flow is, okay, well, AI is taking care of getting rid of all these jobs. The economy is getting rid of all of these jobs, even without AI. How do I make sure I have tenants that pay? Because I don't have the reserves to just sit there and pay all this debt service ad infinitum, ad nauseum, right? At some point, I need some cash flow. So be careful if your plan is Section 8. I have had more and more of my landlord clients come to me saying, hey, Jen, how do I find Section 8 tenants? I said, I don't know, because, I do data and skip tracing for my clients and for random people too. And we can pull landlord lists. Like we can pull Section 8 landlord lists, but we can't pull Section 8 tenant lists. I don't know where to find that, right? And so they're like, I need more Section 8 tenants, Jen. Can you please help me find them? And I'm like, I don't do that. I don't know. I wouldn't even know how to do that.
So I don't think we can, right? Because you're talking about wait list that's sitting on some bureaucrat's desk.
Yeah.
Right? That's what we're
Next
talking
to
about.
Beanie Babies.
How do you know like who actually gets that dole, right? You can't, it's not public data. Who the recipients are, I don't believe is public data.
I wouldn't think so.
That would be wild, wouldn't it?
Yeah, oh my gosh. Could you imagine the lists of TANF or SNAP or Section 8?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Jennifer, if you
would
could
be
pull
surprised.
landlords that do have Section 8 and create a list of these guys who have an overflow, like, hey, I get people reach out to me all the time, and then refer them to these other guys. I don't know if there's a way to do that. But I think there is a site. I think there's a site for them, and people.
There is. That's where we get it. We have to scrape those manually with the VAs. Same with the LLCs. Yeah. It's not like we can just pull a big list like we can for, say, absentee or vacant or, you know, equity. So a VA has to go and scrape those websites.
Well, and I almost wonder, let's say, okay, so I've scraped the landlord list. Now I've got their addresses of their rentals, right? Next step in my thought process, if I'm looking for the actual tenant, not the owner, to mail to those addresses. So now you're talking direct mail marketing, not phone call marketing, right?
Yeah, because they're the one who's
you're sending a mailer to the tenant, you know, to the resident of blah, blah, blah. Especially but then if they're already tucked in nice and neat in their little tiny house, you don't want to necessarily move, right? So,
what if it's a slumlord who doesn't?
That's true, dude. I have walked way too many houses that were slumlords. That, oh my god, I could not believe these poor people were living like this.
Yeah,
one lady had zero heat in the house, had gas space heaters set up all around her house, and would use the stove like it was a gas stove. She would turn the stove on and leave it open to heat her house because this landlord wouldn't fix.
Oh, that's a carbon monoxide hazard.
I know, and it was like what the is going on in the world?
You'll go to sleep and never wake up is what my dad taught me about a 5-year-old little girl. He was like, don't ever have a flame burning in an unopened, like in a place that isn't opened.
Right.
Because we had this little, you know, kerosene lamp and a small camper. And he's like, hey, we have to open the window. That way we actually wake up in the morning.
Yeah. No, he's not wrong. Yeah.
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 Yep.
It's crazy.
Yeah. That's unfortunate, but yeah. And the other thing is, I think this co-living thing is getting more popular too, because like this one here, we're out in Surprise, and it's more rural to Phoenix area, and it has a lot like Sun City and stuff. There's a lot of more senior type of living there. Mm-hmm. So we're thinking like a Golden Girls. There's 4 bedrooms, 2 baths. It's over 2,000 square foot. It's nice and roomy.
Golden Girls, that's great.
These gals, like their husbands have passed and they can't maybe afford to live, or they're lonely and they don't want to live alone, but yet they're still functional, you know, and stuff. And we got a big table they could do their quilting on or whatever, you know. But we thought
it doesn't need to be assisted living, just, you know, co-living for senior females, you know, or whatever. Yeah,
I have not thought about a Golden Girl arrangement. Anytime I think about co-living, I think of, you know, migrant workers or maybe tech workers, young people. For some reason, anytime one of my clients is looking for co-living properties, I've never thought Golden Girl, which is far less sad in my mind than people who are young and too poor to even get a leg up even in their own apartment. Like that depresses me. Right. But the Golden Girls thought is far less depressing. It's kind of sweet and cute.
I think since COVID, there's been a lot more transient people and people willing to just take their lives on the road, right? And live on a laptop, you know, because they're working remotely, they're portable, they're like digital nomads, right? And those type of people, all they need is a bedroom, right?
One person,
right? Why not? Like, so that's a great also co-living clientele, right?
Yes.
You know, those digital nomads.
I don't hear much about digital nomads anymore for some reason. I know for me, maybe because I just tuned out, it lost its luster a little bit. So I was doing that for a long time and with the family. And eventually I just got a little lonely and I wanted to put roots down. Like I loved meeting people wherever I went and had good conversations. But I wonder if everyone else kind of got burnt out on it too. Because either A, it doesn't happen as much, or B, I don't see it because I'm not paying attention to it. or Facebook just isn't bringing it up in the algorithm. So what do you guys?
And also, I think it was more prevalent during COVID, and then I think a lot of offices brought them back to the office.
Oh, is that what it was?
Yeah, I
Okay.
think so.
Yeah.
And so I think that changed that dynamic a little bit. But I do think that there were many people that, didn't want to go back to the office, and so pivoted into an entrepreneurial, running their own business. That
I did see a lot of that. Yeah.
And so either in my opinion, totally Sharon's opinion, no factual evidence whatsoever. My opinion would be either they have grown their business to a point where they're not busy posting on social media about traveling the world. They're focused on their business.
Sure.
Or their business traveling digital nomad style has failed and they have gone back to a job, 9 to 5.
Oh yeah, it's really hard to do both too. I mean, it does suffer a little bit in terms of growth. Now you can maintain on the road, but it's challenging to get real growth.
Yeah.
Whenever you're trying to figure out the basics, what are we going to eat today?
Yeah.
Where are we going to stay today? And so that it did burn me out a little bit.
Yeah.
More the loneliness factor than it was the logistics, but the logistics was probably 50% of it.
Yeah.
Jim and I did that for about 1.5 years, and we had some great times. We were usually about 4 to 5 months in a location, and we were in Florida and St. George, Utah. But when we got to Illinois for a couple months out in this little area, and the weather was starting to get cool. I'm like, you know what? I think I'm ready to settle back down. This has been fun.
Yeah.
I want to go somewhere where I can living out of these black tubs, because I was taking my tax records in black tubs and stuff, and now I'm like getting things organized. And he's like,
it makes a difference, right? That's what I'm talking about, the logistics part.
It's complicated to do some of the things, boxing up and moving again. And where did I put that? Where did I put this?
Yep, every time you move.
Yep. Yeah.
So then I'm also seeing one of the articles that I found, that chat found for me. Don't let me lie to you. That chat found about affordable housing that's happening, right, is local and municipal projects that are getting funded now. So specifically, chat pulled up this article in Austin, Texas, for instance. I'm reading here. In Austin, Texas, for instance, a recent announcement is the allocation of $46.1 million towards 8 new affordable housing developments, which will yield 728 units, aimed at households earning 30 to 60% of the median income. So they're aiming for lower income people with these housing projects. And so I wonder where, what other, that's just Austin. That's just one article. I wonder what other cities are doing this, right? And
for developers, it might be a good thing to look at, right?
Exactly. And how do we get ahead of that curve as investors? Do we hunt down the municipality and find out what their proposals are in the next year or so, and see if we can get in on that and start looking for real estate for those type of developments. I know, a lot of cities, you'll see the long-term plan, right? The city planning or whatever. So revitalization plans in particular is what I'm thinking about. So 2008 or 9, Newport News, Virginia, did a housing and redevelopment plan, and it was a 30-year plan with different phases of, and so they've been planning different housing developments for years, right? And so
30-year plan. They plan out ahead.
Exactly. And so they knew in advance where they wanted to build and what they wanted to build. And then they just looked for the contractors and developers to build it. And so I think that as an investor, that's a key strategy. If you're looking to get into development,
right?
I think a key strategy is to be communicating with the city planners and commissioners and zoning offices and stuff, and find out those long-term plans, redevelopment plans of cities to see where they're projecting. And even I think as single family home investors or small multifamily investors, I think that's a great idea too, because let's say a city is deciding this area over here, they're going to put in, example around here, Portsmouth put in a new casino, right? And so they approved the build of the casino 7 years ago. So people knew this casino's coming in. And so they start buying these smaller houses around the casino to rent to workers of the casino or to rent to tourists that are coming in to do their gambling and have blow all their money and all those things, right? And so like if you really look at the city plans, you can kind of predict where you ought to be investing.
That's fascinating. I've never even heard of city plans. I'm ashamed to admit. So I'm learning this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard like 30 years or so. It's a lot.
Yeah.
Wow.
Quite a while.
It depends on the city. It depends on the plan. Go ahead, Monique. Hi, Monique. How are you? I hope you're feeling
Sorry, I am
better.
so late, guys. I was on a call with 44 acres in Florida that we have a team looking to buy this acreage, and it's amazing. So anyways, back to you. Pardon?
I said that's great.
Oh, yeah, it was a really exciting call. So I totally lost track of time. And I looked at my time and went, oh, my gosh, I can't believe the time went so fast. I hope so. I knew you would, though. I know you guys. You're amazing. So anyways, back to the revitalization. Ann McNamara specializes in that specifically. Yeah. She teaches a class. She talks to everybody. She's been revitalizing her town and has learned a ton. She has so much information that can be deciphered and put out there to help anyone who's interested in, talking to your city and how do you do those things. And it's an amazing world of information that we can get from different people that we know. And if anyone's interested, I'm sure that we can get her on a call or talk to her at some point or
let's get her on here. Let's see if she'd do something on here. That'd be great.
Absolutely. I've got someone scheduled for next week, but let's get her in the week after. Let's talk to her about that revitalization.
Because I think it's necessary. There's a lot of empty buildings that you're like could totally be revitalized to be
exactly
housing.
Dude, I just drive right up and down the main street, like a mile and a half from my house, and there's got to be 7 or 8 motels that are just completely run down and shut down and sitting empty. Why aren't these being taken over by the city and doing some basic maintenance? And we have a major homeless problem. Put these homeless people in here. Right now it's not a whole apartment, but it's a hotel room. Right now you're housing people, giving them some dignity rather than, in shelters that may be crowding them all together. You know what I mean? I think that
in California, they have something called a receivership that does that. And a receivership can get insurance, but individuals cannot. And so out there, it's very much a communist system where all of a sudden, it's like the only way you can get insurance is if you are set up as a receivership. And I looked into how do I become a receivership, and you have to prove that you're able to flip for the public good, and you basically have to be in the back pocket of some local judges, et cetera, is what it looked like. So that being said, California is doing this.
Rooms that those people are in.
I know. Well, I'm not even sure I want to do that because I noticed the more power you get, government, the more likely you are to go to jail if you don't kiss the right rear end. And so I'm really all about power and from the capitalist system where I can still be a free and private person.
Yeah.
Because look at Trump, love him or hate him. Have you ever seen a president more put on the spot for going to jail? Like, if it was me, I'd rather just be a billionaire and not be bothered personally.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. For sure.
So I don't
point, Jennifer.
Yeah, I don't want to climb the government ladder because they always use jail. Like that's always what's thrown against you if you don't kiss the right rear end. So I'm good on that, but I did look at it and I was like, oh, so that's how you do it. So there are places, Sharon, where they do the only people flipping are receiverships because there's no way to get insurance Otherwise, you can't get builder's insurance out there. You can't get a lot of it. You can't. NREG won't touch it if you want to do an Airbnb. And so I think people are secretly, shamefully operating without insurance. Because a lady there, a pastor's like, well, let me get you connected with this guy who's a big Airbnb owner out there. I texted him, I called him, and he'll send me good morning memes, but he will not talk to me about insurance. That was the whole point of me reaching out. And I said to her, I was like, I read in between the lines, okay? Because you know I do acquisitions over the phone for like the last 10 years. My job's to read between the lines and what people don't say. Right. And what he's not saying between the lines is that he's probably operating without insurance. And if I were him, I wouldn't want anyone to know that either.
Yeah. Right? Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
We had one in Portland, Oregon, and we had to they wanted a $6,000. It was great. It was really doing good, making good money. Then all of a sudden there's Airbnb. They're like, what's going on? And they now we want a $6,000 licensing fee we're like $6,000. We're not a freaking hotel. We're a single family home. And then you have to live there so many days out of the year. And then it was like, I had to get a parking, evaluation for parking, and we're one of the few houses that has a driveway. Everybody else parks on the street here. I mean, it was just insane. All these permits they give
up. They give up on the capitalist system. They're like, you know what? But if you join the government grift out there, then it's like greased lightning. They make it so easy for you. So they make it interminably impossible to run any kind of capitalist anything out there, even more so in California than in Oregon. Because at least in properties in Oregon, I could get insurance whenever I looked. But in California, you literally couldn't even get a line of insurance, no matter how much money you were willing to pay. So it was crazy.
You'd have
to imagine now Florida's
into a family there that has ties to somebody. Basically,
yeah.
Phew.
Well, you brought up Portland with all the stuff going on in Portland.
Oh yeah.
That's why we sold and left. Jim was like, I can't deal with this Antifa. I can't deal with them blocking the streets. I'm trying to get to my job site. I don't know what homeless camp's going to show up on this property that I'm working on. It was just, it's
gone bad, but they're trying to make it sound like, Trump's just delusional or something. No,
he's not. Even when we go down there, like the summer, and we have family where we have to land in Portland, and then we drive to the locations from there. But it's like, oh God, it's so disgusting. We're just like, hurry up and get out of here and let's go where we need to go, because it's really gotten bad.
And it's a shame, because it's like the most beautiful place in the world too.
Oh, it's beautiful. We used to love it because we could drive to the ocean for dinner and come home. It was only it was just like, it was amazing. But
I told my husband, we're not elk. We can't just go live in the forest. Unfortunately, we're human, and we have to live around
only, right?
And the society there is total crap for the sake of not using a cuss word. It's like, no, I can't just live in the bushes or in the trees in the forest. I have to be in society, and the society there is pretty terrible in my experience. So good people, but they're up against an impossible system.
Yep. Yeah. That's what it basically comes down to. Yep. They don't care about the people living there. So
they do not at all. They try. It's like they oppress you, and they find the most righteous grifts, like, oh, well, we're doing it for the homeless, or we're doing it for the owls. We're doing it for the
they were, though, right? If they were, that would solve so many problems, but we know that they're not.
Well, I can give you a perfect example why we live there. There was a brand new prison built. The city sat there empty. A gentleman went and paid, I don't know how many millions for this prison, beautiful building, said, I'm going to donate it back to you guys to create these rooms for the homeless. No, you know what they spent their money on? Where people were homeless and it rains there so much, they were under the viaducts and stuff trying to get out of the bad weather.
Right.
They spent and put boulders in there, spent millions of dollars on boulders so they couldn't camp under there. And they're out of sight. And they put up all this metal railing, like that was like inches, so they couldn't get out of the weather. It's like, you spent millions, probably billions of dollars going around doing this versus converting this brand new.
The reality is, if they were smart, right, they could create programs where you can house these people and put them to work in exchange for their housing. And now you have production. right? But we don't do that anymore, right? We moved all the manufacturing to China. We moved all the things everywhere else, right? And so then what do?
Yeah, because within that system, they could have had like an area for a daycare. So there's single families. Some of the moms would go to work, and then you'd have some that would work there and take care of the kids. And
as Elon Musk says, capital is actually a poor measure of the economy. The constricting variable is labor.
Yeah.
Right. 100%. It's like, so if we can move labor, right? If we can bring labor out in a way that makes us more productive, because as you guys probably know, right now, our debt greatly exceeds our GDP. And typically that predicts whenever societies fall. And also the oppression that's going on in some of those, Western states and New York, that doesn't last if you look historically. So if you have a historical perspective anywhere where the people are oppressed and the goods and services are not able to meet the demand for those goods and services, that's where you end up with mafias. That's where you end up with banana republics. That's where you end up with these huge divides between the have and have-nots.
But a mafia would be a good thing. At least it's structured. I'm serious. It's structured. It's controlled. The people are taken care of. Yes, there's an elitist system, but it's not total chaos and it's not outright war.
It's not a power vacuum. But yeah, exactly. in like Italy, mafias became
Rhode Island. We were mostly mafia.
It's where the demand can't meet the supply, or the supply can't meet the demand. That's where the mafia steps in Italy. It could have just started out as bread, right? It's like, well, the socialist system makes so we can't get these needs met. Mafia steps in. But then, of course, here in the United States, it was so historically capitalist. The only thing the mafia could really move was drugs, women, right? And all those things that were illegal. But mafia started out as I understand, as not trying to do anything like vice related. It was just trying to make sure people's needs
were met.
Right?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Part of the unions and all that. Yep.
Yep. Same idea. Right. So they're not necessarily all bad.
No, they're not. But it's just like, I don't understand the people's mindset that think socialism and that, especially like up in New York, I feel sorry for those people if they get the government controlling their food and stuff.
Because they're lazy. I'm sorry. They're lazy. They think, I'm getting something for free.
Oh my gosh. They have no idea. You'll be waiting in bread lines.
And they have no concept of the economics of there ain't no such thing as a free lunch.
No.
Right. And they don't understand that at all.
From what I've seen, it's because they've been regulated out of the fact that thinking that the capitalist system is a viable option.
Yeah.
So I feel like as a Texan, I have the privilege of thinking capitalism works because it does. My friends in California are socialist and communist because their whole anecdotal experience is capitalism doesn't work.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and it's generational too, right?
Yes,
Grandma was on welfare. Mama was on welfare. Yeah. Now I'm on welfare, right? And so, not Great me point. Personally, I'm just saying like that's how it, and so they grew up in that system, and that's all they know.
That's all they know.
Like breaking free from that is like not in their scope of education. Even
and the schools aren't helping with that because otherwise they build these kids up and like teach them about economics and teach them about stuff. You can get out of this rat race of being on welfare, and here's the things you could do and learn what capitalism is about and how to start your own business, not be a puppet in going to work and unfortunately stuck in that hamster wheel.
Yeah,
where you can never get ahead because they're never going to pay you enough.
No,
save enough.
Absolutely.
Hard assets that appreciate.
It's this whole teeter-totter, right? Where you start to earn any more income and they drop off the services to a point where you always stay broke and unable to get out.
And inflation, right? So, I mean, you guys have probably seen this. So wages have gone up 17% in the last 5 years. Eggs have doubled. Home prices nationally have gone up 45%. So that's a huge disparity. And I understand that in Richmond, I was just told today by one of your prolific realtors out there, in Richmond, that appreciation has gone up 57%.
Yeah.
in 5 years, where
insane.
wages have gone up 17%. So
Yeah.
Wow.
something like only 13% of properties that are sitting on the MLS right now, 13% are accessible to the median household wage.
Yeah.
So I'm telling
People-
all of my clients, buy lists that are 350K or less.
Yeah. Yeah, people don't even realize, like people that haven't been out there renting for a while or, own their own house and whatever, they don't realize what's going on right now. But what a year ago would have rented for like $1,700 a month is now renting for $2,700 a month.
Ooh, ouch.
A year.
A year?
In just
what?
a year.
It went from what to what?
17 to 27.
Oh wow! I thought there was there's no regulations.
In Spain, our rentals have gone up. So both in the Richmond metro and in the Hampton Roads metro area. And I imagine DC, I haven't looked into the rentals so much up there, but because I have more flippers up there than I do landlords. But in those two markets, the rents have just skyrocketed. And why? Because people stop buying for themselves, and so then the demand for rental.
Interesting. Okay,
Yeah.
that makes sense. Wow.
We have the same thing going on over here in the Seattle area.
Yeah.
Exact same thing. The rents have just skyrocketed, and people are fussing about it. But it's like, it's just you just can't get a property like you used to for $1,700 or $1,200.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the 2,000 range has to be.
But the investors can't buy them without them making sense to be able to rent them out at these prices.
Exactly.
So it's just unfortunate that, like you said, Jennifer, the wages are not close to keeping up with the inflation. And
Right, it's like that article I was talking about at the beginning. A person has to make $33.36 per hour to be able to afford a standard 2-bed, 1-bath home. 1,200
That
square
doesn't
foot
include
small
groceries,
house,
electricity. My electricity bill in here in Texas, because we have extreme weather, is like $300 a month. On average, grocery bill is $1,600 a month. Car notes $1,000. I'm looking at $7K a month just to stay alive for people. That's
and it's not like we live extravagant.
Nope. You'll never see me do extravagant stuff.
Exactly. So then, on top of that powder keg, we have the things like Charlie Kirk, right? And these other hot button crazy things that are happening out in our world. And I don't know what y'all are seeing in the streets, but I'll be just driving in my regular neighborhood, and there are people on the street corners with bullhorns, and I'm not in like some heavy, deep city, I'm not in New York City, right? I'm not in Richmond Central. I'm not in, even Virginia Beach Central. I'm in a semi-suburban area, and yet on the corners of the, but right over by Target, there's, group of people, screaming and yelling about the political climate and what happened with Charlie Kirk and Trump and all these things. And it's like, how close are we to civil war right now? What I mean? Like it's
like, do these people not work? How many people can be like rioting all the time and not like, guys, who's paying you? You have to be, I honestly think they have to be being paid just because.
So I used to be in
it's a good thought, Donda. A lot of people have asked that same question.
I've been paid. Mm-hmm. So back when Ron Paul was running for president, 2007, 2008 time, I was.
When you were 7.
I was not. 2007, 2008, when he was running, I was involved in a lot of politics, and we would get paid to do exactly that, be standing on the street corner with bullhorns and signs.
Yeah.
And I mean, back then we were making $10-12 an hour to stand there and just make noise, essentially. And so you're not wrong, Donda. I wonder who's funding, these people, and how many of them are funded versus just angry and want their voice heard.
Yeah. I know when I was in Oregon, I just looked at Craigslist and I know we don't use that hardly at all anymore, but this was, gosh, when COVID, right before COVID hit or right after. And I'm like, I'm just going to look in there and see what there is for work. And I was bored. I was wanting to get out and do something, but, and there was $700 a week to go protest. And
See?
I reached out. I'm like, $700 a week to go protest. I'm sure they didn't have W-2s they had to fill out.
Yeah, 1099s at most, but I doubt it. I doubt anyone wants that on their books.
Yep, I think so too.
Yeah, right.
So I was like, I reached out, and of course they probably went and looked at my Facebook profile. I'm like, oh yeah, we're not getting her because she's definitely not one of the people we want protesting.
Funny.
But I wanted to go and kind of check it out and see what they were saying, and kind of.
Yeah.
I should have closed it just to be like a little spy. It'd been interesting.
Brave.
Yeah, but yeah, that's all right. I started working back in the dental office for a while.
I always thought it was nut jobs who were doing that stuff. I didn't really think about it being paid. I mean, Daryl talks about that and George Soros and all this stuff. But, when you've been together for 24 years, kind of in one ear, not the other, a lot of times I'm guilty of that. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. And then if someone like Ashley Cash will tell me the same thing, and I'm like, hey, Daryl says, she's like, you need to listen to him. He's telling the truth. I don't have time to listen to these conspiracy theories. I have to pay the bills, I got to make money.
Oh yeah, get down one of those holes and you have a hard time getting back out. And some people, it's like they just post stuff all the time, and you're like, I come across stuff and I'll post it just to share. It's like, people just be aware, and just think. But I have one guy who just constantly is attacking and sending me stuff, and I'm like, dude, do you not work? I don't even know. Yeah, I don't think he does. I think he lives off the system. Like Jim's cousin we had issues with him too. And it's like, you've been living off the system since you were like 40. And of course you don't want things to change. You don't want somebody to make you like actually have to go and get a job because you're very capable of working. But
I feel like the answer is to buy deep and sell cheap.
Yeah.
That's it. That's it. That's going to help people have an ability to purchase a home. It's going to help your business. And so I feel like for us, we're targeting lists where people are more likely to be motivated. We're no longer targeting high equity lists because that's too many people. It used to just correlate with elderly a lot. But now a lot of people who don't really need to sell or want to sell because of the higher interest rate. So we're looking for more like high equity plus vacant, high equity plus code violations, high equity plus tax liens, high equity plus tired landlord, right? And so by kind of trying to find people, and some people like pre-foreclosure, divorce, and all that. I don't like those just personally. It's not my flavor. Other people love it. And so by targeting people who are more likely to be more motivated to sell at a discount, buying deeper and putting it on the market in a way that is affordable for the median, annual income, then you can keep your business operating on volume.
Yeah.
Right? And
that's the solution, I think, for those of us who are operators.
I think that's a great idea too, Jen. And I think that you don't have to like go in and do like this extravagant high-end flip on it. I think you just make it where it's livable, so you can like move it at a lower cost, and then people can afford these homes. Yeah, that's our strategy. I mean, I've been off work for almost 3 months until about a week ago, and I came back and I was like, I'm not in Kansas anymore.
Yeah, it's changed now. What happened? Oh my gosh. So it's been wild trying to help my clients and help myself, because it's all of a sudden I feel like our market movement is at 0 Kelvin. 0 Kelvin in science is where molecules don't move at all. It's completely hypothetical, right? It's like they haven't even found it in the universe. And I feel like our market in general feels like it's at 0 Kelvin and nothing's moving. And like, how do we get it moving? Well, we have to sell at a price that people can afford. And that's the solution.
Yeah. I think you nailed it. It's And
I think also just looking at how events like that will change how people want to migrate, right? And so, people are driven by fear often, right? And so if events, if rioting and protests and all these events happen primarily around colleges or in college towns, Maybe your suburbia people, your mom, dad, wife, two kids, what husband, wife, two kids want to be moving away from those areas where it's safer.
Yeah.
Right? Or when you are flipping a house, installing things like security measures that maybe, are just the added touch of luxury that might make your house sell faster than the one next door.
Yeah.
Because it comes preloaded with cameras and you know what I mean? All the things.
That's a really intelligent point, Sharon.
Yeah, it is.
And so people want to feel safe in their home.
Mm-hmm.
And so why not, instead of the highest end luxury refrigerator, do a mid-grade fridge and
I really like that
cameras.
thought.
Yeah.
Do you guys remember the No Kings protests a couple of months back?
Yeah.
We live in a very affluent, we're just north of a very, very affluent suburb. And I would say the median annual income probably in that suburb, it was $80K back in 2013. I don't know where it is now, but let's say it's likely, $150K median annual income. So it's highfalutin by median annual income standards. And if you have to take a shot every time I've said that in this post, you'd be alcohol poisoning right now. But it was full of protesters for the No Kings. And we're talking high income. And they're just filling up the highway, the main highway 75. And it's in anyone local here, if they're watching, it's the town of McKinney, which is where I went to high school. I mean, I live 30 minutes north of there now, but it was a very planned, gated neighborhoods, golf course. You think, oh, well, you must have grown up so privileged. Well, I moved in with my dad when I was 14. I grew up really, really poor with my mom, but I moved in with my dad because he moved back to Texas while my mom was bearing the brunt and burden of raising kids in the system on welfare. My dad, God bless him, was off building his career and had accumulated a nice job that he'd built up. So he came back to Texas, and I moved in with my dad from being the poor girl who had to use the hose outside to bathe herself to now all of a sudden I'm in the nice gated community. So it was a huge culture shift for me, right? And so that's the kind of neighborhood we're talking about, like the type that you don't even see in most states. But I do see them in the Phoenix area. And like Daryl's parents, he lives I think they live in Goodyear, and I see kind of more of those planned community type things. And so we're talking about a community that has a lot of wealth, and even they had a ton of No Kings protesting. And I wonder if people were paid to do that, Sharon, because I don't see the regular people in their golfing loafers and the Botoxed ladies getting out and doing that themselves, right?
Right. Mm-hmm. I agree.
Yeah. Well, this has been a very interesting discussion.
It has been. Now we solve world problems.
That's right.
Buy low, sell low.
That's right. The housing crisis and all the economic problems right here on Wholesale Hotties.
Yeah.
Oh dear. Next week we have a wonderful guest we're excited about, and I think that's a great idea to reach out to Ann McNamara about revitalization, and let's get her on and talk about that in the near future. Jen, we'd love to have you back. Join as a regular co-host.
I'm just sitting here working until next summer, and then I get to go back to communist California. But I'm just here in Texas, working until my kids are out of school. So I'd love to be here. In other words, thank you for giving me an opportunity to meet with intelligent female operators.
Right.
I mean, honestly, guys, do you really see much of that in the general population? Because I don't. I think this is a great opportunity for other female operators in real estate and even in other businesses to plug in and see that women can be functional, high-earning people with agency.
Yep.
We're not just decorative.
I mean, I'm decorative too. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I agree with you, Jennifer. Have a good night, ladies. We will see you soon. And good night, audience. Bye.
Good night. Bye.